out with, you've got the Tupacs and the Dr. Dre's. And
well, you're kind of touching on, you see what I'm saying about like the music of the 2000s. Like it was like beautiful chaos.
Yeah, it was kind of like, and it was also like all these different styles coming together in a chaotic,
that's what I mean,
melodic way.
So think about who all came, really blew up in the early 2000s. Eminem, like your Britney Spears,
Gaga,
Justin Timberlake, Lady Gaga, Kanye West. Like these are all still like pretty powerful people. In the music business.
Well, kind of like over the top in a lot of senses too. But it worked. It worked for that time.
Nickelback came out. Come on. Yeah. Linkin Park.
I like Nickelback.
I like Nickelback.
We all love Nickelback. We can all admit it.
Yeah, everyone talks shit on Nickelback, but like, we all like Nickelback.
When Photograph comes on, you're singing it.
Shit, mine's Rockstar.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Justin Bieber.
I should do that at karaoke because I could do it.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanna be a rock star.
You know who does like the background, like the I'll have a quesadilla. That's Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in that song.
Yeah.
Welcome to Culture Copia, the podcast where we discuss all things pop culture, from the movies and games we loved as a kid to new releases and everything in between, and just about anything else that pops in our heads. Rob, Greg, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So, again, in the 2000s, we had American Idol start with Kelly Clarkson. So that started like a whole new way of getting into music.
Yeah.
You know? And now you can just go on TV and become a star.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say how new artists are introduced.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because she's a megastar now.
Well, and it's funny because that's right around the time that MTV started fucking not putting music on their programming, right?
Yeah, the music videos really started going down.
Yeah.
I know they still had TRL.
Right.
But well, I mean, you didn't have the music videos like you did. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how a lot of bands in the 90s got out, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then they stopped. What was it? Where they all lived together? It was like the first show.
The Real World.
Real World.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of program that they started
with the reality.
With the reality shows and stuff. And then look how that spun off. That spun off from MTV. Like, it's weird.
Right,
like, now you've got the Big Brothers and Survivors and...
Yeah.
The Osbournes. Osbournes was my favorite.
So then we had like T-Pain coming out with auto-tune.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say, so the very first auto-tune song was "Believe" by Cher, and it was like '98, I believe. When that came out.
Right.
But then that kind of opened, like you had the 2000s, a lot, like just auto-tune was running rampant.
Yeah, and I would say T-Pain kind of popularized it, especially in the rap world, because now all these new rappers are like auto-tuned to a degree.
Oh yeah,
that's interesting because Nate, Complete Ultimate has an auto-tune download on it, and that's really fun to mess with. When you've got it going, because you can remember. Okay, so the true auto-tune was then, but do you remember California by Tupac?
California.
That is like a guitar, and I think, what is his name?
Knows how to party.
So that and
Like Peter Frampton.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's who I was thinking
the voice box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the voice box. So that's kind of where that kind of came from. But now it's with the digital world, especially with what do they call it? The mouth, I think is what it's called in Complete Ultimate.
Yeah.
I could sit here and be singing and playing the piano at the same time, and it'll fucking auto-tune to what I'm playing on the piano.
Shit.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. But what I'm saying is, the point that I'm trying to make is it got easier to do that with the technology coming out too.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Peter Framptons and the guy from like the Tupac song, that's a skill. You put like a tube in your mouth.
Yeah.
And there's just an art form to doing that.
So, and then you had bands like OK Go.
Yeah.
And Arctic Monkeys put out or use social media to like really push their album, and I think they made it available. You know, that's where they pushed it, and that you know, again, that kind of like sparked the, you know, the streaming.
Yeah.
Right.
OK Go had the really cool video with the
and OK Go kind of got back
treadmills,
kind of helped make, you know, the music videos like really a part of the song and the music and that.
And it was such a simple concept.
Yeah.
Because it was just one camera, one room, and I think it's what they're a 4-piece band, right? So it's four guys, four treadmills, but like insanely and amazingly like choreographed,
right?
But yeah, I think like you said, that was kind of like like oh shit, like people hadn't talked. I mean, what year was that? Like that was like mid
2006.
Yeah, so 2006
is when that video came out.
Music videos hadn't been big for probably like a good like 8 years.
They were few and far between.
Yeah, they kind of died out.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Jamiroquai video?
Oh yeah, he had the moving.
Insanity?
He had the moving
Insanity.
floors.
No, I don't think so. I don't
You
know.
don't remember?
I never saw that one. I'd have to look at it and see if I
love
saw it.
Jamiroquai. Oh, yeah. That's my boy.
Then
Still true today.
so My Chemical Romance's CD, first the Black Parade or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That was the start of the emo trend, and you know that was a huge record for a lot of people.
I saw a meme and it was like when you hear that first that first note, that G note on the piano,
Right.
and it was like instantly like putting on black eyeliner, like swooping your hair over.
And they started after he witnessed 9/11, or was it? I think it was just, you know, the news about 9/11 is why he formed that band.
Oh.
And that was kind of a pivotal moment in music too, because now you have this 9/11 happen, and now, you know, people are kind of looking into things, you know, looking into the government, kind of the start of like the woke period, you know. But again, music reflected that too, and then I think a lot more music started kind of being about like happy. Okay, and celebrating and, you know, party, like let's party it up. Let's, you know, like your Nellies and, you know, just like the hip hop songs and the pop songs that you hear at like all the parties and everything, you know, just like, let's have a good time. Like, let's live life. Like, it was a changing moment. Yeah. You know?
Speaking of that, and I kind of want to go back because we were talking about music videos and things like that with like OK Go, you know, and it was one of those things. It was like, you know, people weren't really watching music videos at the time, and it was like, you got to see this video. They're doing this crazy thing. Another one that kind of popped in my head was Weapon of Choice.
Yeah.
By Fatboy Slim. It was 2001.
Is that the one?
This was a little earlier. Christopher Walken.
Yes. Okay.
And that, like, what a smart, like that's such a brilliant concept to be like, people aren't watching music videos. How do I get somebody to watch a music video? And put this like really famous actor in the video and have him dance.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole music video is just Christopher Walken like dancing through, like, I think it's like a hotel or like an office building or something. Like,
Right.
Yeah, really funny.
You know, it is really interesting just to see how like the mid to late 90s in general kind of affected the 2010s, and then how the 2010s affected the 2020s, or you know, or the teens, 2000 teens, right? And then now where we're at today. But so Greg, right on, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we move on?
No, just 2000s, man. I think that was a real pivotal decade for
I'm
music.
partial to the 2000s, like the like mid 90s to the 2010s, just because that was when
that was my time.
Up.
So I don't know if I'm being biased when I say that, but I think it was a great time.
Yeah.
No, it was definitely, like I said, I mean,
there's a lot that I didn't like. Yeah. But like you said too, now looking back, like all those pop songs that I hated during high school, like I'm like, yeah, man,
they get down.
Those were jams.
We were just trying not to fall into the trends. And,
right. Now we don't give a shit. We're older.
Yeah, exactly.
So Matt, what you got on the movies and television side of that? I mean,
kind of like with the music.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the 2000s were this just sort of beautifully chaotic time for movies and television. I want to start by kind of a couple of notable movie releases in January of 2000. My Dog Skip.
No.
Never saw it?
I remember it. I don't think
You don't remember it? It was Frankie Muniz. From Malcolm in the Middle. It's kind of like a family movie,
Right.
But Next Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Boondock Saints.
Okay.
Now I wanna mention that and then go from there and just mention a couple of notable film releases from December of 2009. So The Lovely Bones, Crazy Heart, Avatar, and Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
So
Are these just like personal picks?
Well, I mean, some things that, I mean, they're probably the most popular ones of
those
each of that
years.
month of that year. But I just kind of wanted to span that from January 2000 to December 2009 and think about all of the things in between there. I mean, when you think of the difference in like when, for example, the Boondock Saints came out and then Avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and think about everything that happened in between there. It's insane.
Right.
Like,
Well, to segue into Nate's topic, that's accreditation to technology, is it not? Because you look at Avatar,
oh yeah,
right, and you're like, holy shit, that came out in 2009,
Yeah.
and it still holds. It still holds up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Avatar. James Cameron did some amazing things with shooting that. Not only is he a great director, but the technology he had to produce to make that movie was, groundbreaking stuff.
It's just crazy to see the right there is a discussion in like the advancement of technology just in a decade.
Yeah. It's insane. I mean, one of the biggest things that I did mention this when we rolled and realized and figured out what this topic was going to be is like, especially for comedy, for television and film, this was kind of like international waters. The 2000s.
Yeah.
Like it really was like when you think about like, you know, the American Pie movies, were like big around that time.
Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Right? Never before did you see two black cops be like the leads.
Always Sunny. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was starting up. Things that like today, like you couldn't make that show today.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? And you couldn't have done it 10 years prior.
Right.
You know, and that's what I mean about like there's a lot of those things in the early 2000s that like I remember watching like Comedy Central at that time and watching a lot of those like Comedy Central Presents, you know, like it's like those half hour
stand-up
slots with the, you know, they'll put a stand up. And I know that they've done them more recently, but at that time it was like, you know, you had people that were just they were coming out and it was really like I said, like kind of like a golden age of comedy. You know, you had people like Louis C.K. and Dave Attell, you know, like Jeff Ross was coming up. The roast, like the Friars roasts were really big at that time.
Right. Dane Cook, was he not?
Dane Cook was coming up at that time, you know, people that, you know, Sarah Silverman, you know, that now, again, it's one of those things. 10 years later, 10 years earlier, like those jokes wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. Well, think too, like you had the Kings of Comedy. Where then you had what's the Jeff Foxworthy?
The blue collar
comedy. You know, like now you got. I think that helped like really blow up stand up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, okay, so
well, if we're talking that, then wasn't Chappelle's show in early 2000s? Was it not?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Again, another, you know, another TV series that God, dude, some of the shit that he got away with, you couldn't see that.
Some of the funniest shit was him, the black Ku Klux Klan member.
I think that was his first episode.
That was his first one.
Was it?
Yeah. And that was a big thing at that time too, especially with television, was, and especially comedy. It was start strong.
Yeah.
You start strong. You don't see that so much anymore. You didn't see it so much before. You kind of had like a soft, like, okay, let's feel it out and see what people think. Back at that point, it was like, no, fucking, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's put a black white supremacist who's blind and doesn't know he's black. Let's do that. First episode. Let's show them what we're about.
Right. Or
it worked. It
always Sunny. Same thing. Very first episode. The gang gets racist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they had like, they were like kind of, it had some misunderstandings about like, Dee's black friend and things like that. Yeah. And it's like, they're like, no, like, fuck it. We're going to put this out there. People are going to know our humor.
Right.
It's dark. It's twisted. It's silly, but it's humor.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. We're making jokes. We're laughing. We're having a good time, I think also, at least, and I could be wrong, like from what I've experienced, like that was when like drama, like television dramas got really good. And I don't know if that's like also a testament to just the technology that was coming out at that time.
ER.
I mean, when you think about like hour-long dramas, like, okay, so prior to the 2000s, you got like, let's say the 90s, the 80s, the biggest shows at those times were sitcoms. They were comedies.
Yeah.
Like the 90s, you had like Roseanne, Full House, Fresh Prince,
Home Improvement.
Yeah, Home Improvement, things like that. But getting into the 2000s was when when you're getting into things like The Wire, Dexter came out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Breaking Bad, Lost.
Right. I'm in the middle of Better Call Saul right now. I'm almost done with it.
See?
And I'm thinking about starting Breaking Bad over and watching and just moving on with it because I'm in Better Call Saul. I'm in the episode now where they just ran into Pinkman and Walter White. So.
Yeah.
Have you seen Better Call Saul?
I've seen some of the first season of it.
Yeah.
But
very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And
have you watched Breaking Bad?
Again, I've watched 2 seasons of that, but I haven't finished it.
Breaking Bad gets great.
Oh, dude, so good. And that's what I'm saying. You've got like those, prior to that, I mean, you had some, but there was, at best, you could hope for like a cult following, not major success.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks comes to mind.
Yeah.
In the 90s, great show. If you ever get a chance to watch it.
The Sopranos too, right? That was one of those.
Started late 90s. I think late 99.
99.
So
that's right.
into the 2000s.
Into the early 2000s.
Yeah, that came about right around that time. And honestly, you bring that up, like that might have been like that segue into that hour-long drama being like such a pivital.
I watched a documentary on that, and I agree with you because there's a scene where he tracks down that guy that like narked him out. Remember, he's like out in the country with what's her name, Meadow.
Yeah,
and he runs across that guy and like he strangles him, and it's so up close and personal. And they were worried about. The FCC or whatever, right? Yeah. Like giving it a rating. They're like they just went and did it, and I think you're right. I think that's when these you couldn't have like the Game of Thrones right now, or like some of these more popular without having the Sopranos and those type of shows breaking that barrier kind of thing.
Yeah, that was an era. That was the decade to do it.
Yeah. Well, and also at the time too, you had these other channels like HBO, Showmax, Showtime, Cinemax, where you could get away with that stuff because that was a paid subscription. It wasn't on. You couldn't just flip on public television and watch somebody strangle or watch a stripper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. But even so, it's actually okay. So before I go into that, speaking of Sopranos, we were just talking about Lady Gaga. She started out on there.
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Huh. Just before she like got it like
before the fame monster.
Yeah. Before that, it was she played the son's girlfriend. I forget her name on the show.
Really?
Yeah. When you look back, you can see her like, oh man, it was like later seasons. It was like the last season or last 2 seasons, something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. But
Nate, do you have a favorite movie or TV show from that decade?
Chappelle Show.
Yeah,
that's probably one of my favorites of all time. And during that decade, because I remember we'd go to work. I worked at Staples at the time, and we would just quote Chappelle Show all evening at each other.
And, I seen a
couple of times we get up on the mic and
Facebook.
we're like, I'm Rick James.
Right, but before we had memes, we just quoted the Chappelle Show to each other.
I think one of the most ones was the race draft, and he's goodbye fried chicken. Hello, fried rice. Yeah. That's so fucked up.
For sure.
I'm rich, bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'm Rick James, bitch.
Rick James. Yeah. And, I mean, when I think of some of, like, my favorite comedy films, or at least some of the funniest, we talked about Jack Black recently in an episode. The year one is still, I think, one of the funniest fucking movies I've ever seen. And that was 2009. But, we talked about Tropic Thunder. What was that?
2008?
Classic.
Oh, that was 8. Yeah. Okay, so that
8.
still holds its. Dude, that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
It's my favorite Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And when you talk about something that you could not get away with 10 years prior or 10 years later, that fucking movie could not have been released any other decade.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
It could not.
You couldn't do it now.
It could not.
Well, like Robert Downey Jr. said, you could do it.
Yeah.
You could.
You could.
Yeah.
But you're going to get canceled.
Yeah.
Hashtag canceled.
Right. Right.
And like I said, I touched on this before, but, there was something leading up to probably the late 90s is when it started to kind of fade out. But, we had, this conservative censorship of like, we don't want this on TV. We don't want this in the media. We don't want these things, our children and people being exposed to this.
Well, somebody think of the children.
Yeah. Somebody think of the children. And, and like, even like the South Park movie, like pokes fun at that, like the Terrence and Phillip and like burning all their stuff. And
right.
Cause that was a big thing, but that was happening at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
With like Marilyn Manson, big protests and like burning his CDs and things like that.
Yeah.
And not burning CDs in the sense of like copying the CD, but like literally setting
ripping
his shit on
computer.
fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
actual burning.
Yeah, but then you fast forward 12, 15 years later and it kind of flipped to the other side. Of this, like the whole PC culture. And it's like, well, we have to be so sensitive to what everyone thinks and how things might affect someone that, we're back in this point of like, okay, well, we're censoring art again.
Right.
And it's just, not to get on my soapbox here, but it's just one of those things that like, how do you censor art?
Right.
This is something, and I mean, and there's a fine line. There really is, to somebody creating art and somebody just being an asshole.
Right.
There's a different. There's a fine line.
That's for lack of a better term. But, in the sense of like, I'm creating something that's important to me and that I think is, I use comedy as the big, like example for that, because it's so subjective. All of art is subjective, but especially comedy. It's like, if something's funny to me, it might not be funny to you. But if that's what I'm creating and it's important to me, because comedy is important to me, laughing and making other people laugh, like that's important to me.
Absolutely. I agree.
Then how do you censor that? How do you say, well, you're not allowed to say that?
You're not. Yeah.
You're
not allowed to laugh at that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well,
that's what you do when you find something funny.
Yeah, those
laugh.
people that are, there's nothing funny about blank, and then it changes every 3 or 4 years, whatever it is now. There's nothing funny about this. It's like, okay. But yeah, there is.
I mean, like, the dingo ate my baby. And he's like, better pump your brakes, kid. You know that woman. That was national tragedy.
Speaking of comedy and going on like that, in one of Daniel Tosh's stand-up,
he's a great example, too.
He would just go on and on. But he's like, yeah, see, that's what I do. Like, I keep the joke going until there's just one person in the audience laughing.
I remember that one.
And, like, even that person's like, oh, no. Like, you just like...
He's like, that joke had everything.
Right.
I was just talking about how we had to change our light fixtures.
Yeah. So, Matt, what's your favorite movie from that decade?
God, dude.
I'm going to have to go with Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder is a good one. And, I was going to mention that, you were talking about, like, the whole, like, the dingo ate your baby. And he's like, that ain't funny. And that's why that movie's so fucking smart. It really is. The writing of that movie is so smart, because here you have a man who's white who's doing blackface, and it's clearly very offensive, and now he's getting offended by something that's so dumb. That this black dude's making fun of his like Australian accent.
And it was a national. It was a
true
big
story.
deal. It was a big deal in Australia.
Yeah.
Greg, what's your favorite?
I have a really tough time picking favorites, but. Some notable ones like I was a big comedy.
Okay.
So I love like Anchorman.
Okay.
Or what about Idiocracy? I think that came out in the 2000s.
Yeah.
I'd probably say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Idiocracy is like one of the most important films, I think.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that was 2006.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's like a goofy comedy, and then when you sit and watch it, you're like, oh shit, dude, that's real.
Like, damn, this is coming true.
That's real life.
Yeah. I mean, but I was a big comedy fan, so just really.
I think my favorite from that time. It's a 2002 movie, Death to Smoochie.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I need to get that. I want to own that movie.
And that's a good point too when we talk about comedy. It's and like
real good example of a dark comedy.
Dark comedy was becoming more mainstream.
Yeah. Just like you mentioned, like It's Always Sunny.
Yeah. I think prior to that, people didn't really understand it. They're like, well, what's funny about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the early episodes of Always Sunny is Charlie has cancer.
I've seen that one.
And spoiler alert, it turns out that he's faking cancer.
Yeah.
And people be like, oh, that's not funny.
Yeah.
What's funny about someone faking cancer? It's like, it's contextual. It's contextual and
it's not funny that somebody would fake cancer.
It's funny that character.
It's funny how it comes about.
And I think Death to Smoochie was very important in kind of like bringing dark comedy to the mainstream of like, if you tell that story, it just sounds like a true crime drama. You know what I mean? Like something you would see on like the Investigation Discovery Channel or whatever. Or like a first 48 hours, like this guy snapped and went, But
talk about like a movie that you couldn't do nowadays. I think of the boxer mafia guy.
Yeah.
With the CTE thing going on, because he's like dumb as he's like, no, I'm Moochie, and like he's been hitting, and they even make jokes about it. He's like, he's been hitting head too many fucking times. And he's
exactly.
So, well, Matt,
what about you, Nate? Do you have a favorite movie of that
favorite
era?
movie from that era? There's a lot of good ones I'm probably forgetting, but let me see here. One that's kind of an oddball. That's not like a typical movie. A series came out called Planet Earth in like 2006 or so. That was like 4K high definition
I forgot
Animal
that.
Planet.
I
love that.
I love it. I still watch it.
I do too.
Man, that was big. I like that. Let me see here.
Good call, man. That was a good one.
I think Lord of the Rings might have came out during that.
Oh yeah.
Big fan of that fantasy genre.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good news, because next episode coming up next week is fantasy. So
there we go.
Yeah. I'd say another one actually came out in the year 2000 was Castaway.
Oh, that is a good one.
Dude, I was just thinking of that movie, actually, because that got me thinking about all the good Tom Hanks movies that came out.
The Terminal.
Yeah,
Terminal's good.
That was a
That's
good one.
All right. So, moving on. We're going to take a quick break real quick. When we get back,
Thank you very much.
Top 10. Oh, no, we still got Nate. I'm sorry.
To
Nate,
the final segment
and then we got
of this episode.
Top 5.
Yeah.
We are going
so we'll
to
be right back, guys. Hand it over to Nate, and we're going to talk about 2000s technologies and games. And this is kind of a cool subject for you because that was when you were kind of coming into your career and what you're doing now with IT and all the other cool shit that you've been doing the last 10 years or so at least, right? So
Sure. Yep. So I mean, okay, so I'm in the 2000s. I had just graduated high school. And so I was already pretty into computers, but I wanted to get a job, focus more on that. So I ended up working at Staples. And that's a good place to talk about how quickly technology changed in the early 2000s. Yeah. Just in the beginning of the 2000s, you had, just to paint a little scenario, people maybe have desktop computers. You probably don't have a cell phone yet.
probably don't have a laptop. If you do, it's massive.
It's massive. I had a massive Dell laptop that was like 12 pounds. I brought it there.
Yeah, it's a
Dude, you're getting a Dell.
nutbuster.
Dude, like my parents said to me, look, when you graduate high school, we're going to buy you a present. And I was like, all right, well, what do you got for me? They're like, we'll give you a choice. You can either have a car or a laptop. And I was like, give me a laptop. And then I used a laptop to make money to buy a car. But
Boom.
but that was my hustle at the time. So in the beginning of the 2000s, you had a world where you maybe had a desktop. You probably didn't have a cell phone. If you were on the internet, you were maybe dialing in through 56K modem, connecting with the classic sounds. We all know what that sounds like. Yeah. So it really began this era of like the internet starts becoming accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
They start to realize like, ooh, I can get on here with my computer. Maybe it cost me $2,500, so the bar's still kind of high. But then compute started getting cheaper. These things you could go into the store for when we first started selling them, like $2,000. You want a desktop. Kind of a high margin, but next year, 2001, 2002, that price just starts plummeting.
Yeah.
And so now people are getting their hands on technology and computers. And on top of that, too, broadband starts coming out. Now, you can download way faster than 56K. You can get a whole megabyte a second.
Right.
Megabyte a second.
And that's enough to download an MP3 in about 3 seconds. Which popularized stuff like Napster, for example. And if you want to talk about Napster a little bit, Greg, the impact that had on music, I mean, can't be understated.
Yeah, just the fact that now you can share what you have, in with the internet, helping that, you didn't have to buy the CD anymore, and you didn't have to buy the whole CD. You just bought the song
that you wanted.
Really, you didn't even have to buy it.
Well,
You got it for free.
Yeah.
But you picked the songs that you wanted and made your own album.
Yeah.
So with that internet really helped change.
Much to Metallica's chagrin.
Yeah.
Lars
Well,
Ulrich.
thinking about it, one of the cool things about Napster was you could get those songs that you in those audio, like I remember the first time I heard Slim Anus. We would talk about that a few episodes back. That was the first time I had ever heard that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was on Napster.
Yeah.
I always think about the South Park episode where he like takes him around to like, this is Lars Ulrich. He was gonna put a solid gold jacuzzi in his backyard.
You're right.
Now,
it's
thanks to illegal downloads, he can only afford a regular jacuzzi.
And so this thing appears where, I'll admit I had a big old binder with like CDs that I'd burn. And boy, if I didn't have like the killer collection of like anything. And here's the thing, I would download not only what I wanted to listen to, I would download extra stuff. I would see an album that maybe I was slightly interested in that I'd never buy. And I'd download it and I'd listen to it. And all of a sudden I got exposed to music I had never listened to before.
Right.
And I feel like in a way, this is what happened with music. It's what happened with data. It's what happened with culture. As the internet started to make it accessible to people, especially for free. We went from a world where maybe we hit up the library on the basic until now we're hitting up, what was the old search engines like Alta Vista and Excel and Netscape, and we're all up on GeoCities and our Angel Fire websites. Like it was fast times back then. It was real exciting. Everybody could like get on the internet, get on there and get something new. So that was the early 2000s as far as the technology went. And as it got better, well, the price started coming down. People started getting savvier. It started to saturate more. Now more people are getting online. I mean, you could fast forward just a little bit to, let's say, 06, and we could talk about when the smartphone dropped.
Right.
Boy, was that ever going to change the world. 2006 or 2007, I think it was. Jobs came out there, did the keynote, introduced a smartphone to the world. Now, other phones had internet, but it sucked. Right. I was selling cell phones at the time, and let me tell you, it was not an iPhone experience.
Yeah. Right.
But when the iPhone came out, it made it easy to get on the internet from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we did.
Yeah.
And that gave rise to one other thing you can mention, too, is social networks.
Right.
Did you see that BlackBerry movie that just came out this year?
No, I missed that one.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. Very interesting. Yeah.
Awesome. Check that out.
Yeah.
But so the 2000s really represented a point where the internet became accessible to people from a technology standpoint, and from a gaming standpoint, that changed a lot of things too. Because previous to go ahead, Rob.
I was gonna say, is that when we started seeing like multiplayer and all that kind of stuff?
Oh yes, yeah, the early 2000s. So previous to the 2000s, the multiplayer experience was kind of limited. You had some games like maybe Ultima Online was just starting to break some ground there. Previous to that, you had these games called MUDs, multi-user dungeon, text-based multiplayer.
You could do like local network.
It wasn't easy to get at.
Right, you could hook up before the internet, kind of like with the Nintendo 64. You could hook up multiple consoles with multiple TVs and play multiplayer.
But you really kind of had to know
Yeah.
that technology too.
Well, you had to know the technology, and everybody had to have a console.
That's right.
'Cause I remember
that
too,
bar
like
was high.
you know, when I was a kid
in
back
one
in the
spot, you had to have
back
a
in the
console.
90s, like installing a computer game or even the joystick for the computer game, like you kind of had. Not necessarily but you had to get on DOS and do all that. Now you just plug it in,
That barrier.
Plug it in.
This barrier just keeps dropping and dropping. So in the 2000s, we saw the beginning. You can get on the internet, but that ramp's high. About 5 years into it, that ramp's low, and we're moving fast, and we're sharing data, and we're sharing music, and we're sharing images, and we're sharing culture.
Right.
And once we start sharing culture with each other on the internet easily for free, then it just really begins. And maybe this is why pop music started to get popular, because it became this amalgamation of styles. We found out that now that we can get out of our silos easily, we can digest all this information we've never touched before. Yeah. And people are doing cool shit on the other side of the world. Holy fuck.
Right.
Just didn't know. But the 2000s opened the door. So we saw a lot of that real quickly. And so we got lost in a sea of free information, free songs, free music. And then I guess you could talk about how that got monetized a little bit.
Right.
Jobs came in and looked at the thing and said, all right, well, Napster is probably not sustainable. Artists aren't going to like this. No one's getting royalties, right?
Right.
How do we monetize it? He's a smart guy. He realized that you can't just say, give us money for music. No one's going to do that. Yeah. You got to make it easier. You got to make it more convenient to get someone to give you that money.
Wasn't that the reason why the iPhone was created, was so that you could get music on your fucking cell phone? Is that not the reason why?
I feel like that's half the reason right there, because your iPod was already popping, right? And so from there, they rolled it into a phone.
Right. And I remember the iPhone being the first smartphone, right?
I agree with that. Yeah, there was a few predecessors that maybe you could make a case for. Palm had some stuff. And Nokia had some stuff. BlackBerry had some stuff. But that experience was not rich at all. Like, you weren't surfing the web. You're crawling through a text terminal, essentially, in my opinion. Yeah. So when that happened, the other thing with video games that happened too is video games are a little more siloed, kind of like music and television, in that way that if you were going to watch it, you either got it distributed from a store, or that was about it. Maybe you borrowed it from your buddy or went to the video store. Shout out the Blockbusters too. They were still alive at the time.
I didn't even bring up Blockbuster.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah,
I mean, because that was kind of the beginning of the end.
Well, we're talking about now.
Agreed. Because you got Netflix coming down the pipe in the 2000s.
Yeah.
They're delivering DVDs at the time.
In the mail.
In the mail, yeah.
And Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix.
Oh, they did? Whoa,
and they passed.
Oh, they're kicking themselves from the grave.
Yeah. You guys watched that document? I think it was on Hulu about the last Blockbuster. That's still
that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. When the documentary came out, it was still.
I think that's going to come back around.
Oregon.
I think in the next 10, 15 years, I think that's going to be. I think it'll be a nostalgia kind of thing.
They turned it into like an Airbnb.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. With like, it's got like a bedroom in it, but it still has like all the videos and stuff. And I think there's like a big TV that you can like put all the like, with like a DVD player, and you just like, if you're staying there, you like have like you can watch any fucking movie that's in there. Yeah.
That's great.
Like that's what they ended up doing with it. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Well, like, so for a while, it kind of became almost like a museum of like film like props and stuff, because they would get like like official props from like certain movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something, and they would put it on showcase because like people would come there, because it was like this thing, the last blockbuster, so they kind of they decided to capitalize on it a little bit.
Right.
Speaking of one of the best South Park episodes ever is when
the return of the Fellowship of
well, okay, so that was part. I guess that's a blockbuster. No, but the one where Randy buys a blockbuster.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a Halloween episode, and it's a spin-off of The Shining.
Yeah. I was thinking of when they had to take the.
No, that's also another classic. One of my all-time favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Is Backdoor Sluts 9.
Yeah.
And the wives are like, how the hell do you know about this shit? Yeah. You're like, Backdoor Sluts 9 makes Backdoor Sluts 7 look like whatever.
Which, okay, like you said, like all the wives are like saying to the husbands, like, how do you know about that? Like, shame on you, whatever. Kudos to Stan's mom for like being down, because like that was the whole point, was like
true.
Randy and I forget her name.
Sharon.
Randy and Sharon, they were about to like get all freaky and watch a porno together. So like
they're like, man, I hate it when they have these narratives.
Right. So like props to her. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like she was a little more a little more willing, a little more woke, if you will, than the rest of the wives. Like she was she was down.
She is a down chick if you really look at all the crazy stuff that Randy does.
She'd have to be, dude, to be married to Randy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I would probably, like, now that I think about it, like I kind of equate her to Amy, because like to be married to me, like she
dude, I feel the same way about fucking Tori. I was getting ready to say that. Like, I tell Tori that all the time. I'm like, I understand that being married to me is not the easiest thing in the world. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh man. Yeah, it's wild, the stuff that came out of there. We were talking about the music, and we were talking about Napster and distribution and the effects. One of the things that also helped music out in some ways is software to produce music started to become much more accessible and available. Now, if you got it off of LimeWire, I'm not judging you. Maybe I had some binders myself. But a lot of people somehow found a way to get production stuff on their computer and make beats and record themselves. And as luck would have it and fate would have it, the internet gave them a way to publish it.
Right, SoundCloud rap.
Well, it's not just it's not just SoundCloud. It's shit. The other ones that you can post to too. Spotify,
like,
for example.
That's a good one.
So for example, you can pay a subscription and you pay this service to publish your music, and it goes out, and you only get paid like 1/millionth of a penny per play or something. It's something crazy.
So these services are amazing. Some of them are like modern timey services too, like a DistroKid, for example.
That's
Shout
the one.
out to
DistroKid. I've used DistroKid. DistroKid's awesome.
Absolutely good. And so some of these services came out by some of the needs that appeared in the early days. It's like, all right, this is tight. I can record my own music. I can make my own beats. I can master it to some extent.
Yeah.
I got the internet connection. I can upload it. Where am I going to put it? Now, in the early 2000s, we're talking 2001, 2002, hope you get an Angel Fire website, hope you get a GeoCities. Like, the places you put it were a little dispersed all over the place. And so what we saw in the mid-2000s is there started to be a consolidation a bit, and there was some already, but as the media started pouring onto the internet, a way to get at this media that was more convenient started to come. So you get a service like YouTube, for example, which became a backbone service for uploading videos. Before, you'd have to go to my website to get my video. If I upload it to YouTube, you already know how to get to YouTube. Right. And so this common ground for people to share video and entertainment came out. It could be music, could be audio, could be a movie clip. All of a sudden, it's easy to show someone that funny clip. See who's down in South Park. It's easy. Here's a link. There's a link.
Right.
So the way we could share culture and media accelerates
like,
as it gets easier with this technology.
It's instant information.
Instant information.
Yeah.
And the
instant gratification. And remember being a kid sitting on like the front porch or something, or talking with, like, just wonder what, why that is. Wonder what's up with that. And
totally.
Like now we can just boop, boop.
Oh yeah. And
Thanks, Google.
I love that too, because I'm the type of person who asks why quite a bit, and I annoyed a lot of people growing up with just trying to figure out what was going on. I just wanted more information why, and they'd be like, what's your problem? And you questioning me? I'm not trying to buck your authority, Holmes. I just want to know why.
Yeah.
Computer don't care. They'll just tell you why. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
AI, same thing. I'll just tell you. But so we started sharing information with each other pretty quick in the early 2000s. Now we're online. Now we got bandwidth. Now we got music. Now we got media. But how can we do this even easier? I want to talk to Rob. I want to talk to you guys. But what are my options? I'm going to go through AOL Instant Messenger, which was fire during its time period.
It's huge, yes.
Yeah.
ICQ is a little bit down low Instant Messenger for geekier folk or whatever. I had my account. But then social networks started coming out.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, you started hearing... Facebook wasn't the first.
No, MySpace. I had a MySpace account.
So these random social networks started popping up a little bit. MySpace was probably the biggest one that consolidated first, and we all have our stories about MySpace, and that's another place to spread music and spread movie culture.
Yeah,
and so pop culture now had a new home, and you had a megaphone to spread your own culture.
Right. I think using MySpace was one of the first times I ever uploaded an original piece of music to the internet.
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
We talked about this before, but MySpace taught me a little bit of code.
There you go.
Because you could personalize your page, and you could just download a theme for your page. But I figured out that if you go into all those lines of code, you could take out certain lines of code if you didn't want certain things on.
Heck yeah.
And I would mix and match, because kind of make my own theme that way. And then when I got in, I think I took a coding computer class in high school, and I was like, I already know how to do this. I did this shit on MySpace.
And so the story you're telling right now starts to give rise to this generation of programmers and hackers and technology people that came out of this era, because guess what? You don't have to go to school necessarily to get the information now. You could if you were in that position, but YouTube got you. Wikipedia sometimes had you back then. Various people's websites, and thank you, internet, for your infinite just generosity. Whoever made these first web pages staggered my mind. Not only was it brand new, there was 10 websites for one thing. It just showed me how vast we are as people and our information. So these resources pop up, and now for the first time too, for a lot of people, and this one's big, the social network gave us as individuals a way to magnify our presence. 1,000 people could listen to you at once. 10,000, 100,000, 1 million people could listen to your message.
Right.
What you want to do with that message is up to you. At first, it was just funny. You post something up, your meme goes and blows up, you got 100,000 likes. That's insanity. No one's making money on it at first, but it was pretty entertaining.
Right.
And now you've created a subculture of people know what this meme is. And so now you're getting into meme culture starting to be birthed. With this idea of... now we all have, because to drive 1,000 people to your own website was kind of tough back in the day for an individual, but to get someone to go on your Facebook page, much more reasonable. And so the mid 2000s, late 2000s started to show us the power of an individual on a network.
Right.
It was wild ride.
Yeah, because for some reason we want to there's a point to where we want to express our thoughts and put our perspective out into the world. I mean, it's kind of the reasons for having social media, right? Nowadays, more of my posting and shit is just funny shit that I've seen,
A lot of people say that as people, part of us as people, we have a need for self-expression, to share our experience with other people around us for whatever reason. And I think that started to give us this bigger outlet, because if it wasn't the world we're worried about, at least our 35 people that we know, our friends, family, and close circle, we could keep up with. And we could share a message with them easily.
I wonder if that is an advancement in instincts kind of thing, sharing, openly expressing, or openly sharing our experiences in life and everything can lead to better things in people sometimes, if you're putting a positive message out there,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if that's because I feel like there's a need. Like, when I'll run shit through, like, Midjourney, and like, I think that's funny, and we post that to Facebook. You know, you just.
Well, I mean, it's discourse, and discourse, it leads to more information and different perspectives, and knowledge can grow that way. I mean, so it has a lot of potential for good. The flip side of that too is you can look at it too, like, well, another opportunity arises to make money. You can look at the monetization of the 2000s as well, as far as social networks go, and that's positive and negative. It depends how you want to spin it. Like, a lot of people that didn't have an opportunity to make money one way can make internet money now. The 2000s brought the rise of, like, an alternative hustle for a lot of people. I made money on the internet early on, and that opened up an opportunity for me that just wasn't available. It wasn't even in school at that point. So the internet and the 2000s technology really just blew open a new vector of just experience sharing and work opportunities and just experiencing life in a different way. And the gaming side of it, just to touch on that too, that exploded a new genre of gaming, because you have the MMO that just dominated in the early 2000s. World of Warcraft, love it or hate it, was a cultural phenomenon that changed the world as far as
another
gaming goes.
South Park episode.
Simpsons did it.
All of a sudden now we could play games with each other online, and we could match make easily. And when the broadband came out too, there wasn't even like the dial-up lag anymore, and so you could get a fluid experience. Fast forward in the 2000s a little further, you get voice now. You can jump on the voice server and talk to each other.
Right.
Couldn't do that early on, but like mid 2000s, that need, something called Ventrilo came out, and that was like the precursor to Discord. And so now you could jump in and play Warcraft with your friends and talk to them. That blew minds at the time. That was insanity. It was so awesome.
Right.
And so that evolved from there. And now you've got games that you're playing multiplayer online with your friends. You're constantly connected to the internet.
Your friends, like, halfway across the world, too. Yeah. In a lot of cases. You're playing with people from all over.
It's amazing how you can cross cultures like that. You can run into players from all over the world. And I think, too, that's kind of where maybe our global community of consciousness starts to wake up a little bit. Like, people in Japan, just hypothetically, like, people in Japan are now more real to me than ever because I've just played Warcraft with them.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I've talked to them for an hour.
You guys share, and who knew that people in Japan would love World of Warcraft, or stuff like,
It's just, my touch to them before was my internet, my news, my media, my books, what people told me stories about. But now I have some actual experience to go off of, which I think is valuable on a personal level. You get to run into different people from the world, because you can assume everything, but when you actually experience something, you get an interesting perspective. And so that mid-2000s internet opened that up for gaming. And so now we've got cross-culture gaming happening, and that all merged into a world stage, essentially. Soon it was kind of flattened. Now, who is the best in the world at X? Who's the best in the world at Y? Became, a hot topic of conversation, and esports started to wake up in the 2000s, too. It wasn't quite awake yet, but esports was on the rise. Big tournaments in the early 2000s for Street Fighter tournaments were popping up in California and New York, and me and my buddies actually went to a bunch of these live, and that might be another tangent, but
I was thinking of EA Sports. Never mind.
It's in the game.
Yeah, it's in the game. That's what I was thinking of.
So gaming really got a nice pack of rocket fuel essentially in the 2000s as far as reach and participation.
Yeah. Well, part of that is, microchips and processors and stuff started getting cheaper, and therefore you could start getting, as the technology advanced, you could start getting access to better and better games for a semi-reasonable price, so
100%.
You've got that. And
the advent of the video card was like a slope as far as expense went. The first one came out, they were pretty expensive, because NVIDIA was, NVIDIA was one of the earlier companies. We have a branch of them here in St. Louis, too. Shout out to NVIDIA. They're always trying to get exposure in St. Louis. I don't know why people don't know they're there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know they're. And what was really cool is we got to participate in a computer building like workshop, right? And they brought us in, and they gave us they hooked it up fat. They were awesome.
It was amazing.
Systems, machines. Dude.
It actually was one of my proudest days for you. To be honest, because all right, let me just real quick story. It's about technology, so it's relevant, right? We go out to NVIDIA, and the deal is this: we have paid a premium price to build gaming towers because NVIDIA is going to host an event where they're going to allow us to come in, build a tower for gaming stuff, and they're going to subsidize the price. So at the time, Rob and I are building games. We need new hardware, and this opportunity pops up because of a local group we were with. We arranged it with NVIDIA. They hosted it, and so now me and Rob are there, and we paid for 2 computers. Rob says to me, I've never built a computer in my life. I don't know what I'm doing with this. He's worried about breaking this thing already. And I'm just like...
I mean, I'm a little awkward sometimes, like I was a little nervous because, I've got sausage fucking fingers and you're talking about, little intricate, electronics and stuff.
Totally reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable in this story. I'm saying to Rob, you're gonna build a computer today, and he's like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, it's happening, dude. You can do this. So we go in there, right, and they've got some coaches and stuff, and we're building the first tower, and I've got my tower, he's got his tower, and he's working with the guy, and it doesn't even take that long. Maybe an hour tops goes by, and they've got this tower complete. Cases on, thing boots up, fan spins on, boom. This boy built his first computer.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, hell yeah, that's good shit. Now build another. And I made him build my computer. So by the time Rob left the building, he built not 1 but 2 computers.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a great day.
Yeah.
And then they also had an Oprah moment too. They were like, by the way, we've upgraded all your video cards over the top.
Yeah.
They gave us Titan XP video cards. And,
you get a video card. You get a video card.
That's how it was.
Those are $1,200 cards.
Yeah.
We paid like
nice.
$500 or something. I mean, they hooked it up.
It was like state-of-the-art cards.
Hell yeah.
Like at the
Nice.
time.
I'll never forget it in
That's
NVIDIA.
so cool.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
That was pretty neat. Yeah. We do got to give a shout out to them.
Yeah. And NVIDIA, St. Louis.
Maybe a future sponsor.
Maybe. Hey.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So their video cards.
I'm using one of their video cards now.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Oh heck yeah. Most cards are so anyway, shout out to NVIDIA. Huge impact because they invented cards in the 2000s and ramped them up as far as what you could do on the tower goes, and they brought the price down. And then they actually play a big part in the AI stuff too. Their video cards are in the cloud crunching AI data as we speak. So, but we're talking about the 2000s. This is way too early for AI.
Yeah.
It's just a sparkle.
Yeah. It's still just in movies.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of gaming stuff there, and a lot of music, a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Morpheus. We could trade movies to some extent. We could swap films. I watched a lot of Japanese movies, a lot of Korean movies that I've never downloaded, never seen in my Blockbuster. No disrespect, Blockbuster, but the obscure Korean horror movies just weren't there. Okay?
Was BitTorrents? Was that in early 2000s or late 2000s?
I believe it
I
was.
Yeah.
I believe the torrents were coming out, and the line wires and torrent sharing. So it really opened up. It was like early 2000s. Opened the door to the internet. End of the 2000s to me, we started getting good at it, and it started to just like really, and then into
really
2010s,
realizing what we could do with the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
So, exciting.
All right. Well, last but not least, Matt, we've got a top 5 coming up.
Matt's top 5.
Oh,
we're gonna work on
right.
some sound bites.
Yeah. Well, we'll get something.
We'll get something going. So you guys know, Nate, you probably don't, but I'm a huge hockey fan. And my top 5 this week is top 5 NHL teams to watch.
Okay.
Just teams that from what I've seen, I mean, we're in November now. We're balls deep in the season. And, you can... I mean, anything can happen, but, heading into, like, preseason and things like that, we can look at it and go, okay, well... what do we think is going to happen? But once you kind of see them in action, it makes things a little different. So we're going to count down. Number 5 is kind of a dark horse, but I'm going with Anaheim Ducks. All right,
Okay.
The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. Might not have the best chance, but they've got some young, scrappy guys. They've got some good talent, and they've really shown up, man. Like, just compared to what we were seeing and what we thought we were going to expect out of them, actually have been doing really well. Number 4, they're really hot right now. They just got to keep the momentum. New York Rangers. New York Rangers. I've seen some tough defense off of them, and you know, just a lot of talent again there in New York, and they've got something special going. They just got to be able to rein it in, and hopefully they can move forward with these guys. Number 3, Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto.
Yeah. I think at this point the longest Stanley Cup drought in the entire league.
Yeah. Over the Blues?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I think at this point, and they you know, managed time and time again to make it into the playoffs and just can't, you know. But they're looking fierce. They got some good guys there. Maybe they can actually squeak it out this time. Number 2, Vegas Golden Knights. They're looking for a repeat. I'm telling you right now. Yeah. They're coming off of a hell of a season, coming off a Stanley Cup.
That's who you're representing today.
This dude wearing the jersey.
Yeah. And the number 1 NHL team to watch this season is the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey Devils are we're the Devils. We're the Devils. They're young, they're fast, they're strong. They're my top pick right now.
Really?
To go all the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you looking for Devils and Golden Knights?
It'd be fun.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Who would you pick between? Say that's what it comes down to. Golden Knights.
You know what you do? You should bet on it.
The
man.
Devils.
You know, I should have last season, early in the season, and I'm not usually the person that I'll call something and then I'm like totally wrong.
Yeah.
But for some reason last season I looked at a guy I was working with at the time. I was working at a sports bar and we were watching a hockey game and Vegas was playing, and I looked at him and I said, I'm gonna tell you right now, and this was like October. This was like we were just a couple games in the season. Yeah. And I was like, Vegas is going all the way. I was like, they're winning the Western Conference and possibly even the Cup. Yeah. Yeah. And they did.
Got to support your team.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.
And to answer your question, if it came down to it, I would say the Devils are going all the way.
Devils.
Okay.
Yeah. New Jersey's going all the way this year.
We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah. Now that it's recorded,
okay.
for everybody to hear, I'm probably going to be dead wrong.
Right.
So, all right. Well, coming up next week, we've got fantasy. Thanks for sticking around with us and listening, and be sure to tune into the next episode, guys. So we'll
see ya.
We'll see you next week.
Whoop, whoop.
To Mordor.